Pokemon Black and White 1 are some of my favorite games in the franchise. Well, no, they are my favorite games in the franchise, and for a multitude of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons why is because they force you to use the wonderful Pokemon of the gen and nothing else. And Gen 5's got a lot of bangers, so I'm going to talk about my 10 favorites, why they're my 10 favorites, and why they're awesome. Let's get into it. Alright, first up, we got Reuniclus. Now, most of the Psychic types in this gen, they kind of suck. But Reuniclus has a really cool line. It's got a very unique design. I love all the multitude of colors that's used in it. It's green and not just like a basic pink Psychic type like a lot of them started to become. And it's very powerful. It's pretty tanky as well. It's got a very large special attack as well as the high HP, high defenses. It's got a very amazing ability. It's got a couple great abilities, in fact. It's got Magic Guard and Regenerator. Those abilities are both very useful in competitive, which makes it pretty fun to use. It's also very fun to use in a playthrough, because while it is slow, it's very powerful. Now, I do have its dex entry at the bottom here. And what I find funny about its dex entry is that it even mentions that it's very physically powerful. It can crush rocks with its arms. It can crush boulders physically because of the special liquid it's got surrounding it. I don't know about that. That's 65 attack stats, not really convincing me of that. Seems like it's got a much more powerful mind than with its arms. Anyways, going up to number 9 here, we got Volcarona. Now, I know a lot of people would have Volcarona even a lot higher, but, you know, I do really love Volcarona, but it's not going to be like number 1 or anything. Volcarona is very cool. One thing I like about it is that it almost feels like a legendary. You catch this thing at like level 70 post-game, and it's standing there. You don't find it in like a route in roaming grass or whatever. It's standing there at the bottom of that cave. Well, not really a cave. It's more like ruins. Whatever. You find it there. It's level 70. It's got even a unique move. It's got a pretty unique typing. There's not many other bug fire types. And it's got fantastic stats. It's actually lower than a pseudo-legendary or a legendary. But still really good stats. And it is actually one of the few non-legendary Pokemon that have been banned to Uber, the Uber tier, which is mostly got cover art legendaries up in there. And I'm pretty sure Volcarona is actually the first non-legendary Pokemon to have been banned generations after it's been allowed in OU. Just has suddenly been banned in Gen 9 because heavy-duty boots were introduced and that really helps it. And then also Terra was introduced, and that really helps it as well. Now, Volcarona has also got some fantastic lore around it. Also, I do just gotta mention, it's got a great design, and no other moth Pokemon is gonna come close, or is as close to as good of a design as it has. It's even got 2 Paradox forms since this, and Volcarona came out being better than both of them anyways. It's supposed to be a buff, but it really wasn't. Anyways, so Volcarona is even more powerful lore-wise as well. It actually served as a replacement for the sun. That's pretty badass. I'm a pretty big fan of that. So yeah, Volcarona is cool. Look at its Gen 5 sprite over here. It looks great. Awesome. Now, let's talk about Ferrothorn. I quite like Ferrothorn. Now, it's interesting because this Pokemon has been a competitive titan ever since its introduction. It has never left the pivoted OU tier. And that's partially because of that amazing Grass Steel type. It's actually, a lot of people talk about how good the Bug Steel type is, and will act like the Grass Steel type is just a slightly worse version of the Bug Steel type, because Grass Steel does have 1 extra weakness in fighting. It's still got that 4 times weakness to fire, but then the 2 times weakness to fighting. Well, let me just tell you right here. Grass Steel is a better type than Bug Steel. Sorry to tell you guys that. Sorry, the Scizor fan club. I like Scizor as well. But Grass Steel is definitely a better type, and Ferrothorn is coming out on top. Because Ferrothorn, having that Grass Steel type, what it has over the Bug Steel type is it resists water, electric, and rock. It resists stealth rocks, and water and electric are amazing resistances. So yes, Ferrothorn is for sure better than Scizor. It's always performed well. And not only has it been in like the OU tier all the time, it's always been one of the best Pokemon in it. Like top 5 Pokemon a lot of the times. So not only is it in the highest tier, it's very good in it. It's actually so unbelievably good that it's used often in many of the Ubers tiers, along with the crazy powerful cover art legendaries. And it's crazy to see that Ferrothorn's so unbelievably good, even though it's got this low base stat total. And that's just because its stats have been distributed so perfectly. Its special attack and speed, you know, it's sacrificing by having very low stats in these two to min-max these great defenses, an okay HP, and actually a pretty dang solid attack. Especially with its high move power, with stuff like Power Whip and Gyro Ball. Seems like I need to get the music back. Hold on. My Drift Fails City music was not doing a good job at looping. Anyways. But I'm not here to just suck off Ferrothorn as a great competitive threat. It is a great competitive threat, but I've even liked its design ever since I was a kid, because I thought it looked like a weird, interesting, spiky UFO. Very unique design. It looks very odd. Not in many other generations, I think, would have come up with something like this. He's a pretty odd-looking guy, but he looks pretty cool as well. Very menacing, very spiky. No wonder this guy learned spikes to put all over the place. And honestly, I want that plush that's over here. It looks pretty cool. And when it comes to the lore, it's pretty fun that it is swinging around using those, as it says, 3 spiky feelers. And it can even smash boulders like they're nothing. Another reason I love Ferrothorn is because it comes from the best cave in the whole series. Chargestone Cave. Very unique location and actually a fun cave to go through. All these caves in the Pokemon games suck. They all look the same. They're not fun to go through. A lot of them are dark and a lot of them have the same Pokemon. Chargestone Cave comes up. It's got a fun aesthetic, fun puzzles, and really cool Pokemon to encounter that are varied in typing and usability. It's great. And Ferrothorn is the GOAT of Chargestone Cave. Although I do like some of the other Pokemon that come from it. Alright, next. My boy Archeops. This is my favorite fossil in the entire series. And you thought I might have just been talking about competitively viable Pokemon. Because honestly, most of the Pokemon I've talked about so far are good competitively. Well, Archeops is not. But Archeops is powerful. I mean, look at this massive attack stat. Really solid speed. Actually a pretty high base stat total. But a lot of that's wasted in that special attack. If you're a physical attacker anyways, why do you have so much special attack? This mixed attacker syndrome, yeah, they don't really design a lot of these anymore, and that's why a lot of new Pokemon are better. But it's whatever. I love this guy because I've always called him like the Fruit Loops bird. He looks crazy. And he's got a wild design. And you can even see, I put a little picture I found on Google here. Comparing the sprite and the 3D model, yeah, they really did murder him with that. The sprite looks really cool. The 3D model looks goofy. But yeah, he's got a great rock flying type. He's very good to use in the actual like in-game playthrough when you're playing through, because you can get him pretty early. You can get him guaranteed. He's good for a Nuzlocke, and he's very powerful for an in-game playthrough, especially because you don't have to deal with something like stealth rocks in an in-game playthrough. I love Archeops. He's great. And he runs at 25 miles an hour. It's really not all that crazy. Archeops doesn't have the best lore down here. Although it says it runs at speeds comparable to that of an automobile. But then it just reveals, yeah, that means 25. So, your grandma That's what Archeops is compared to. Anyways, well, I guess he is ancient, so that makes quite a bit of sense. Let's talk about Chandelure. Actually, a pretty popular pick from Gen 5. Is only really, I've only seen Chandelure stocks rise. It has continued to be real popular. Kind of like Volcarona. Volcarona is a popular one. But yeah, we got Chandelure here. Has that wild high special attack stat. Actually was the highest of any ghost type for a while. Well, actually, no. Just for this generation. Aegislash beat it the next gen after. And, like, it's got okay speed. It's got these weird defenses where, like, yeah, 90 is actually not all that bad. But then you got the 60 HP, so it's pretty bad. But Chandelure is really cool. I love its lore. I love that it's one of the best inanimate object designs. This thing would be creepy to come across. It's actually pretty fun to play as in Unite. This is one that's made it into Unite. It's the only Gen 5 Pokemon in Pokken Tournament. Pokken Tournament refuses to give Gen 5 any love. Honestly, a lot of spin-offs didn't give Gen 5 very much love. I feel like the first time Gen 5 got much love were in the last two real generations. That weren't spin-offs. In both Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet. And you see the Smash Trophy here. Not only is it mentioned as a little Smash Trophy, but it's actually an enemy in the mode Smash Run on the 3DS for Smash 4. So that's a fun little thing. You can actually beat up an occasional Chandelure. And it can pull up in Smash for Wii U as well, but only a weird shadowy black version while you're fighting Master Core, going through his little maze or whatever. Anyways, Chandelure is also creepy as hell, because it'll put you into a hypnotic trance, it's got hypnosis, and it burns up your soul. It literally is burning your soul. That's terrifying. He's crazy. Chandelure, crazy. And, last thing I gotta mention about it, it's got a really cool shiny. I won't be mentioning shinies much, because I don't really care. I think they're kind of a gimmick. But, this one's pretty cool. And there are floors where you can only find a Litwick, so if you want to, like, roam around to get a true shiny there, you're not going to find something else on accident. So that's good. I tried doing that once. Then I got impatient, because, you know, that's awful. But I have found a couple Gen 5 shinies. Anyways, I'm going off on a side tangent. Alright, number 5, Excadrill. This will be the last one that pulls up that I have a decent, like, competitive bias towards. I love Excadrill, and he's very fun to use. He's crazy good in an in-game playthrough. You can actually get Drillbur mad early, and if you keep him a Drillbur, you can get Earthquake pretty early compared to a lot of other Pokemon. He's got an amazing ground steel typing. He's got that fantastic attack stat, and actually that really solid HP that makes his kind of mid defenses kind of work. It's not the worst. He can survive like a hit. But with that crazy attack stat and the great typing and his abilities, he can be a complete menace. My boy T-Tar here can summon the sand for him. He's actually a partner with one of my favorite Pokemon. I love Tyranitar. And Excadrill and Tyranitar kind of have this synergy. They're known to go together, and that's cool that they got that bond. Because I like both these Pokemon. They're both pretty badass. So Tyranitar can summon the sand automatically just by existing with his ability Sandstream, and then Excadrill has the ability Sand Rush that'll just double the speed up, and he'll be ridiculously fast afterwards. He can max out at 604 speed, which is actually a lot higher than just 88 times 2. You gotta go by the stat over here, not the base stat. And that lets Excadrill achieve insane speeds. Absolutely ludicrous speeds while having that amazing attack stat. The same attack stat as Metagross and Salamence. I mean, just crazy. And he's also got just such a badass design. The way he spirals together to drill into you. It's crazy cool. He's so fun to use. He's a great aggressive Pokemon. I love ground types. Ground types are just naturally offensive, and I respect that. And when it comes to lore, when it comes to his dex entry, well, it's pretty fun that they make little maze-like nest, and that they can go through steel no matter how thick it is. Excadrill is a strong driller. You are not tanking him. And yeah, that's pretty comparable to how he drills through opponents. Anyways, next up, kind of a sleeper pick. Nobody really likes him as much as I do, it seems. I love Bouffalant. Bouffalant is a cool guy. Now, I do kind of have a special attachment to him because I used him a lot when I played this game through for the first time. And he's actually the second Pokemon I've ever gotten to level 100. And that's pretty rough considering it was in Gen 5. Getting Pokemon to level 100 in Gen 5 was annoying. But yeah, when it comes to his stats, they're kind of weird. He's actually got these very solid defenses and a pretty okay attack. And I don't know, I think Bouffalant's Afro is really cool. I've always liked normal types for whatever reason. He's got a pretty solid moveset that you can teach him. And at least at one point, his signature move was called Afro Charge. If that's not awesome, I don't know what is. And it even mentions that they headbutt everything, and their fluffy fur can absorb damage. And it's awesome that he can headbutt so strong. His headbutts are so strong that they can derail a train. Well, actually, they could apparently even send a train flying. I don't quite know what that means, but we've seen the Pokemon anime. We've seen how Team Rocket blast off. It's probably a crazy, exaggerated, hyperbolic version. Bouffalant's probably sending a train flying into the air. Alright. Number 3 is Crustle. Now, this is a pretty crazy pick for me, at least, because Crustle used to not be was not even close to one of my favorite Gen 5 Pokemon for most of history. I wasn't a big Crustle fan. I never used it when I played through Gen 5, and its design never really appealed to me. But then, as you can see, I have the Unite model on there. I don't have his Gen 5 sprite like I do for a lot of the other ones. And that's because my main connection to Crustle has been through Unite. And it made me see this Pokemon for how awesome he really is. Now, orange is my favorite color, so I like that part of his design. But also, just his Unite render, I think it looks a lot better than a lot of his Gen 5 depictions. But yeah, he's actually got a pretty interesting kit. Bug Rock's a pretty rare type. He was one of the main users of a new Gen 5 move in Shell Smash. And he uses that move to great effect. And there's a really cool fight of him in the anime, fighting an Excadrill and a Selgor, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, he's actually my main in Unite. I've done very well with him. I've even had that like gold ribbon that shows that you've played this character way too damn much. And I've gotten high up in Masters several times through my Crustling. I've probably become one of the top Crustles somehow. I've compared myself to some of the top players that have played Crustle, even in high up tournaments. Yeah, I can do what they're doing. I know what it's about. I've got a lot of Crustle experience, but that's for another day. And actually, I even have his X-Scissor symbol from the game, because I just love X-Scissor. The 3 continuous stuns, and you knock him into a wall. Man, it's awesome. And then the thing I love about him the most is his super overpowered, amazing ult that has actually been buffed several times. I love Crustle's ult. It's great. They've recently even fixed the thing where people could stun you out of using it. Now, when it comes to his dex entries, it's actually pretty interesting. Crustles are very territorial, and they actually break each other's boulders And it even mentions how strong they are, that they can carry heavy stone slabs for days. That's pretty tough. This is a pretty tough little crab. And when you think about it, yeah, this is how big Crustle is. He's not very big. He's just got a lot of boulder, and that's why he's that big physical defense stat. Let's go, Crustle. Anyways, next up, number 2, another underrated pick. Not a lot of people love him, but I've always really liked Scrafty. It's got that interesting dark fighting typing. It's actually very good in in-game playthroughs. It's on the goated route, Route 4, which is an amazing, fun little desert route with great Pokemon choices there. Dark fighting is actually very good for a playthrough of Gen 5, and it actually makes him great into the Elite 4 of that game. The Elite 4 plus Gatsis and N. And he's got an interesting stat spread, that's for sure. He's, weirdly enough, got the same defenses as Suicune. Weirdly enough. I mean, he's got a worse HP, but it's the same defenses. And he's kind of like this weird orange hoodlum guy with a mohawk. I don't know. He's got the saggy pants. I think he's cool. He learns high jump kick naturally, which is so powerful. When I got my hands on that as a wee lad, man, did I feel like I was on top of things. I had a high jump kick, crunch, and then a couple coverage moves. I think I even put poison jab on him at one point. Catch a grass type lacking. Although poison was awful in Gen 5. But yeah, he's also pretty strong. I guess all these Gen 5 Pokemon are very... Gen 5 Pokemon, especially ones I like apparently, are very physically strong because he can smash concrete blocks with his kicks. That's pretty cool. And whichever one has the biggest crest is the group leader. That's pretty cool as well. And they also can apparently spit acid, so should apparently be a poison type. I mean, I guess if you could add one more type to it, if there's triple types, you could make it poisonous. But weirdly enough, there's a lot of Pokemon that are poisonous that aren't even poison types. Umbreon, for instance, is one that comes to mind instantly. And honestly, that'd be an interesting little buff for Umbreon. It being a dark poison type, that would leave it with only one weakness in ground. Anyways, the last thing before we get to number 1 are a bunch of honorable mentions. I really like all of these Pokemon. I'm not going to go into each of them, but I really like all of them, but they just barely didn't make it onto the list. These are cool guys. They just barely didn't make it. And I think most of these aren't controversial, but I'll defend 2 of my choices. People don't like Sock and Throw. Screw you. Sock is very fun to use, and Sock is badass. Look at the way he's leaning in on you. He's about to close combat you in the face. Oh, they look like Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street? Yeah, that's cool. And also, this is the New York American region. And guess what? Sesame Street's American. You know what? It's pretty fitting in my world. Alright, and Garbodor? Oh, he's based on trash. That's lame. Okay, it's a very unique design and interesting take on trash. That's no less creative than a very basic bird. Like, copying an animal is not inherently more creative than copying an object, and they've been copying objects for the entire franchise. But this is a whole nother rant. Garbodor's cool. I like Trubbish, how he's like a trash bag leaking out a little trash, and then Garbodor goes full on with that, and he sprays a bunch of poison everywhere. He's a cool guy, and he has my favorite Gigantamax form. Look up Gigantamax Garbodor. That thing is sweet. Alright, honorable mentions done. Let's get on to my very favorite Gen 5 Pokemon. Let's talk about Darmanitan, baby. I love Darmanitan. First off, he's got that decent speed and that amazing attack, that 140 attack, same as Archeops. Very strong. A lot of very strong Gen 5 Pokemon with physical attack. I mean, heck, there's even Conkeldurr and Haxorus as well. Very strong attack. And he makes good use of it too, because he's got an amazing move pool. He's got Flare Blitz, Earthquake, U-Turn, Stone Edge, Superpower. He's got coverage of all sorts. And he's just got a sick design. I love his crazy fire eyebrows, his big gorilla arms, It's awesome. And he's even got a very unique ability here. Now, it's not the ability you actually use if you're battling people, because it's not really all that good, but it is neat. If he uses the ability Zen mode, once he gets below 50% health, he becomes actually an even higher base stat total Pokemon, although, like, it doesn't inherently make all that much sense because he gets even slower, so he's probably going to die to the next attack. But he gets tanky, and he has really high special attack now, and he becomes a fire psychic type. And now that means you can use some psychic moves with him and stuff. And it's definitely interesting. And I wonder how good the Pokemon would be if there was just a separate Pokemon that was Darmanitan Zen mode as a Pokemon. And then it maybe gets its own little unique ability that benefits it. Because when you're using Darmanitan, it's just better to pick Darmanitan with sheer force and just physically rip through a bunch of crap and not even worry about this Zen mode. But the other reason I love Darmanitan is I already did love Darmanitan, and it was actually the third Pokemon I got to level 100. But then in Gen 8, they did my favorite regional form of any Pokemon, Galarian Darmanitan. Look at this guy. He's sick. And he looks so neat. And this guy actually, funnily enough, despite having the same stats as Darmanitan, instead of just being like some fun, slightly lower tier threat, he was actually so unbelievably overpowered, banned to the tier with a bunch of cover art legendaries, and was actually still really good in that. He joins the coveted list of non-legendary Pokemon that had to get banned. And that's because they gave him a crazy amazing ability, and he's got even better coverage because he's got that fire type. I mean, he's still got the fire moves. He still has like Flare Blitz, Earthquake, U-Turn, Superpower, Stone Edge. And he now gets Ice Stab as well with like Icicle Crash. And they gave him an ability called Guerrilla Tactics, which immediately gives him a choice band. Basically, it buffs his attack by 50%, but it locks him into one move. And then you can still put a choice band or a choice scarf on top of that. So it's just absolutely wild. This guy's coming in with absolutely ludicrous stats, either being extremely strong and fast, or just so unbelievably strong you can't wall him at all. Both were very viable options, and it makes him into an absolute beast. No wonder having that kind of ability was overpowered on a Pokemon like Darmanitan, who already has such an insane attack stat. It actually made him like the strongest Pokemon without any setup, just turn one attacking. Even stronger than something like Mega Mawile, which is absolutely ludicrous. And then and it keeps getting even more interesting, Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan, they completely changed it up and they made the form make a lot more sense. He actually it's got completely different stats than the normal Zen mode, while the Galarian Darmanitan base form has the same stats as normal one. But the Zen mode gets way faster, 135 speed. That's amazing. Now, I'll say it was a lot more amazing in Gen 8 because Gen 9 introduced a bunch of extremely fast Pokemon that now match this speed, like Koraidon, Miraidon, Chien-Pao, and Fluttermane. But then, yeah, so you've got this amazing speed. Weirdly enough, you still have a pretty good HP, although with horrible defenses. It makes no sense. But really good speed and really good attack. Insane attack, in fact. 160, that's pretty crazy. And it became the first Ice-Fire type. That is badass. And now you have Stab on both Flare Blitz and Icicle Crash. That is cool. Now, let's talk about its Pokedex. Its internal fire burns at 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy hot. And it has enough power that it can destroy a dump truck with one punch. That is pretty cool. My boy Darmanitan, you don't want to mess with him. And the last thing I want to mention is, okay, Victini got a unique move called V-Create, right? It's the strongest fire type move in the game, and it's the strongest move that isn't explosion, right? That's awesome. It was at first a unique move, so it's like, okay, that's fine. But then they gave it to Rayquaza. Alright, that means the move is up for grabs. Other Pokemon can get it. Both Victini and Rayquaza have V-Create. Give my man Darmanitan V-Create. It would be a great way to increase his viability in a fun way, and it would actually make plenty of sense. Look at these eyebrows. It's actually perfectly V-shaped. He's another Gen 5 fire type. It would thematically make so much sense. Give my man Darmanitan V-Create. That would be sick. Darmanitan's the GOAT. Peace out.